So, welcome to the HappYness Helix podcast. The first time that we are doing an online podcast. And our guest today is Professor S. Sudarshan, who is the Subrao M. Nilekani Chair, Professor of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay. Sudarshan is an internationally recognized researcher in database systems and data-driven technologies and co-author of the textbook Database System Concepts, now in its seventh edition, which is used globally. From 2000 to 2004, he was the Deputy Director, Academic and Infrastructure Affairs of IIT Bombay. His insights bridge academic rigor and practical innovation, making him the perfect guide for our dialogue on AI's evolving role in society. And last and certainly not least, Sudarshan is a classmate from school, albeit one who was far more studious and always scored great grades in school. And he helped keep the average of the school up, and I helped bring it down. I helped it bring it down to the average. And I think Sudarshan has always continued in that kind of brilliance. And it is my extreme pleasure, Sudarshan, to have you here. Our paths didn't really cross too much in school. You were the studious type. I was the other type. And I was thinking, who should I get? Because everybody's talking about AI and what it's doing. And so I said, let's get Sudarshan in if he will be willing. And it took us probably 7-8 months, and we were able to get this going. Thank you very much. We've had some technical glitches as well. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. And some opening remarks, and then probably I can ask you a few questions and we can have a dialogue in terms of what this thing called AI is going to do to the world.
It's a pleasure being on this podcast, Cheenu, and look forward to spending the next hour or so with you.
Lovely. So, first off, is the name artificial intelligence actually accurate according to you?
That's a good question. What is intelligence, right? Everyone has their own view as to what is intelligence. And for the longest time, intelligence was considered, let's take, for example, being a chess champion. That person has to be the most intelligent. And guess what happened about, I think, 30 years back? It's quite a long time back now. Computers became so good at chess that they beat the world champions. And they needed big supercomputers for that. But over time, that improved, and even with less formidable hardware, computers could beat humans. So then, are computers more intelligent than humans? So that's a question which has been going back and forth. What is intelligence? And then it's clear that there are certain types of intelligence. There are many types of intelligence. And so today, people have started talking about artificial general intelligence, which is everything, not just intelligence in one specific domain. So I think that's a reasonable way to look at it today, because that's one thing which computers haven't beaten us yet. So once they beat us there too, then I don't know, we'll have to redefine intelligence as in some other way so that we are still on top.
Absolutely. I was having a chat some time ago, and this is before when there was only word of mouth, so to say. It wasn't the written word. Information was passed on by word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it spread very slowly. And then came the ability to write. And then people who wrote, whether on thrones or books or whatever it is, that became the medium for sharing knowledge. Yeah. And then we had the typewriter or the printing press, and then books became mass-produced. And then we had electronic medium, the internet came up, and we have information spreading very, very quickly. And then now we have the mobile networks and information just spreads at almost at the speed of thought, so to say. Right. So I think yes, and human beings have always been intelligent in that sense because we've created each and every one of these things, including this thing called AI. Human beings have created it. So probably whether it is to be called artificial intelligence or I was reading a book and it talks about AI. It says a digital assistant or a co-pilot, right? And there is a lot of things that can be going on. Anyway, that I think is, like you said, the jury is still out. We don't know what to call it. There are so many things. And again, large language models, so to say, right? And it entirely goes on the basis of language. So the question that came to my mind is that a lot of our interactions as human beings is nonverbal. Now, I read this wonderful book by Professor V.S. Ramachandran, and he talks about how he can say the word really in 23 different intonations with 23 different emotions. And when you type it out as text, it's just one word, really. And he gives a demonstration. He said, really? 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 And all of those things. So I think when, like you rightly said, when computers and machines can catch that, and empathy also becomes part of what they're doing, I think then it'll be a completely different ballgame altogether.
We're already there, actually. Sometime back, if you had text to speech, the way the computers would talk was extremely monotone. Today, you can see computers probably using inflections far better than most of us, certainly much better than I can do. And, when I talk, it would probably sound more computer-like and monotone to somebody who is now used to computers speaking in the, let's say, Valley speak or whatever other accent that you want.
Yeah.
And, that perception of emotion is something that computers have become very good at. This is one of the uses of AI, which has actually taken off in both directions. That is, computers can recognize emotions better than humans can, whether it is speech or even looking at your face and seeing what you might be thinking. And conversely, applying those emotions when you generate speech or generate a photo or a video of a face, for example. So emotion is something which we thought was uniquely human, but is now being sort of quantified. It's not that computers have emotion, but they can categorize and generate emotions today.
Absolutely. A couple of times you also pointed out in groups that we are part of that while it seems like that the voice is the person's, the inflection, the tone, the tonality, and all of that is that person, but it's actually not that person who's speaking that. Yes. Somebody else has just typed out on some text, and it comes out in a person's voice in their own style, all of that. So I think, I think it's.
There was a recent case where the U.S. Secretary of Defense Mike Hegset's voice was forged, and several people were fooled into thinking that he was talking to them.
Wow.
It can be quite dangerous. Maybe one day they can fool somebody into launching a missile based on this. We hope not, but there is a risk.
That is definitely something that if you were to take your technology computer hat on, put it on and say, what is the global impact that you see of AI? I think this is a topic that is being spoken about by a lot of people. But given your, if I can call it, ringside view, being on the inside, having been in this space for such a long time, and probably getting to know of whatever is happening even before the world gets to know what's going on. What are your thoughts? What are your predictions, if I may, on the global impact that AI will have?
Okay, so first, let me get back to the question of what is AI. Right? AI, we think, is something new, but AI dates back to the 1950s or maybe 40s, maybe, where these concepts were imagined, and in fact, the neural networks that we hear about today were actually created back then, except that they were not powerful enough to actually exhibit what we think of today as intelligence. And then the word AI has a meaning which has evolved over time. Things which humans could do but computers could not do was called AI, right, for quite a long time. So anything which was just out of reach of computers was AI. And then computers would catch up, and then it would no longer be called AI. Something else became AI. So in its most recent avatar, before the current avatar, what was AI? AI has been in use extensively over the last 30 years in businesses, that 30, 35 years. People don't recognize this, but there have been an enormous number of uses of artificial intelligence of those eras in businesses. For example, when you search on Google, you get some results, right? How does Google get it? Part of it is algorithms, but part of it is actually learned from uh, what people have clicked on in response to what queries amongst the many options that were presented and so on. So, this area is today referred to as machine learning. So you have data which you collected from various sources, you learn from it, and what do you do from the learning? There are many things. For example, Google would decide what to show you in response to a search based on what it has learned from how others have responded in the past to what it showed. So that is the ML for search. Then there's ML for recommendation. We have been using YouTube for so many years now. And in India we don't use this, but TikTok is very widely used in many other parts of the world. And what are these things doing? They're recommending the next thing to show you. So AI is very much at play here, based on what these systems have learned from the past. They make recommendations, and they're all over. Recommendations based on AI are all over, but the most visible is in things like TikTok or the Google. What are they called? I forget the name. But anyway, the one where in Google Shorts, Google Shorts, uh, threads on Meta, and so on. There are so many of these platforms where the recommendations are amazingly good, in the sense that they uh, addict people into keeping on watching what is coming next, because people are actually enjoying it. It means it's predicted what people enjoy. So that is a different form of AI, which has been very successful over now. It's decades that it has been around. So they've been improving, but the basic idea has been around for decades. So what changed? If you again go back to history, uh, speech recognition was an important thing. Translation was important. And again, there were systems which have been doing both of these for years, using some forms of AI over a period of time. But sometime around 2012, 2015, in that era, 2010, 2015 era, there's a big change where people started building systems for image recognition. And they created architectures using what are called today as deep neural networks, or just deep nets. And this technology was quite amazing, because from a point where systems were very bad at figuring out what was in a picture, way worse than humans, in the space of 5 years, they went from when these challenges started, maybe a little more than 5 years, they went from very bad to better than the best humans at recognizing what is in pictures. So this was around 2015. They could look at a picture and say, these are the things in the picture. They could look at a picture and say, this is a picture where there is a person sitting in a chair looking out of a window, and things like that. Right? They could describe what is in the scene. So that was an amazing success, which even some of the people who were building it never thought they would achieve in such a short time. They thought it's a lifetime ambition. And there's an interesting thing here. One of the people who built this apparently jokingly told her student, okay, now you looked at a scene and describe what is in it. Can you do the reverse? You take a description and create a scene. And she thought this was absolutely impossible. It's never going to happen. But guess what? 5 years from then, or maybe, people had already started building systems which could do this to some extent. And today there are systems which do this amazingly. So these new systems are what is called generative AI. They can generate It's not just recognizing, but generating. So how did these come about? That you talk about large language models and languages, right? So any system which is able to learn needs data for learning. And that data typically in the past used to be what is called labeled data. That is, if this is what you see, this is what it is. So you had images, you had humans label the images, and it was a lot of work to create those systems with labeled images. And it was needed because only from that systems could learn how to recognize what was in images. But it was a lot of work. It was not scalable beyond the point. So what happened with large language models is that they did something slightly different. There's a lot of text out on the web, billions, trillions of pages. And what the system had to learn is, given a piece of text, what is the next word which is going to come? Or given a piece of text, if you pull out some words from that, can you predict what those words should have been? It's a predictive task. And so people built systems to do this kind of prediction. And the good thing is that there was a huge amount of data already there, no need for humans to go and sit and label. So this was amazing that you could actually use existing data to make this prediction. In hindsight, it was not so surprising. When you see a baby learning about what is happening in the world, initially they have no clue what is going on. If the face vanishes, the mother is gone. Then, if you put something to block the mother's face, they start crying because the mother has vanished. But over time, they recognize that no, the mother is still there behind that sheet of paper you're hiding the mother with, and so on. So they're actually learning by seeing what is going on. They're actually making predictions. So this is what happened with large language models, that you could predict. Now, the next thing is, if you could predict, can you generate the predicting next word, and then the next word, and then the next can lead to generation of text. Now, if you have used autocomplete on your phone when you're typing in something, just pick whatever is the top suggestion of the word which comes next. It's amazing what kind of text you get from it. It's ridiculous, but at the same time, it sort of makes sense. And this is not even a system intended to do this. And once people build systems which are intended to predict the next word, we started getting very good at it. So this was generative AI. There's also generation of images. I'll come to that. And then there was this context in which you're doing this generation. So if you can train these systems to generate text related to the prompts that you give it, then you're creating text based on prompts. And this is what ChatGPT did. And people figured out how to train these systems with prompts to respond with responses, which are extremely natural. And people were just blown away by this because nobody expected that this is possible. Even researchers in this area who were working on large language models, they never thought that in the space of literally 1 or 2 years, we could come to a point where the system is generating meaningful responses to questions. Of course, the system doesn't really understand what it is, which is statistical prediction, and systems generate garbage. It's called hallucination, but really the system is just making a prediction, and its prediction is wrong. It's not intentionally trying to do anything, but it's generating garbage, right? So this is the world of Gen AI which we are in today. And these models
Yes.
have been improving and generating less garbage, but by no means have they stopped generating garbage, and they will continue to do so. Although systems have been continuously developed to reduce the generation of garbage. I'll come back to that.
Sudarshan, when you're saying this, um, I was just thinking, our school teachers, they could have taken a look at your answers and my answers to some of these questions, and your answers might have made sense, and mine might have been the latter kind, the garbage kind, because I was basically shooting from the hip, so to say, and trying to make sense. So I think AI is.
You've clearly not looked at my Tamil papers.
Well, I was going to pass.
I'm reminded of a joke that an uncle of mine said. This is way back in the 30s or the 40s or whatever time, 50s probably. And his cousin was absolutely certain that the question that was going to be asked in the exam was going to be about boiled snow. and he read everything about Boyle's law. And he went to the examination. The question was, with the help of an illustration, explain how the steam engine works. And this man had studied Boyle's law and only Boyle's law for whatever was in the textbook. He didn't realize that the steam engine was probably a practical application of the same thing. So his response, his answer in the paper was, I don't know how the steam engine works, but Boyle's law states as follows, and he wrote whatever he knew. One of the things that I also find that I've been experimenting using generative AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of them. And I find that sometimes I have to recheck what the answers are, because sometimes they just give me answers they think I'd like to get. And if I was just having a chat with it, that's fine. But if I'm going to be using it for something really important, then it becomes very, very interesting and important for me to actually check it. And many a time I've had to find multiple times where it has gone wrong, or it has created information without even having any data, and it's just created something like, the word that you used was hallucination, right? And it just creates whatever it is I think I want to hear.
Yeah. So ChatGPT tells you what you want to hear. Grok tells you what Elon Musk wants you to hear.
I was reading somewhere and they said that there is this bias that is there in each of these modules. And the bias comes from the data that they had been fed, or the labels that have been attributed to this data. And therefore, if I'm using the right word, the person who's giving the input in terms of how to label and how to process the information that has been garnered, if that person has a certain leaning, then that model also has the same leaning, is what they're saying. And I read that Grok wanted something that was anti-woke, and that is Grok is something that is supposed to be anti-woke. I don't know whether that's real or somebody made it up, because in today's world, I'm finding it really difficult to understand which is something that somebody said and which is something that has been generated by AI. And it's going to be interesting. The Chinese blessing, or the curse as it's called, may you live in interesting times, comes to mind. I don't know whether...
As teachers, this is a very important thing for us. If we give assignments which people have to do and submit, did they really do it? Or was it AI? That's the question today. Of course, it's not a new problem. We always had people taking help of natural intelligence, that is other people's intelligence, and submitting other people's solutions. And so we would build systems which will look for duplicates. But those who could actually spend more money would get a actual competent human to generate the answers, unique answers, not copied. And then you wouldn't know, right? So this is not a new problem. AI has simply democratized cheating in this sense, if you give out assignments. So it's a good thing maybe in this context. But more seriously, it is true that AI generated text or whatever was much easier to spot in maybe a year or two back. But things are changing rapidly and it's becoming much harder. So this impacts what we as teachers do when we evaluate students. Okay. So, for example, we do let students use AI when they do something, but in the end, we have to evaluate whether they actually understood it. Because it's very easy to not understand anything and just prompt AI and reproduce whatever AI said. And this will lead to the kind of issues you were talking about. AI generates garbage, you will reproduce the garbage. And if you don't have the sense to, or the enough knowledge to understand that it's garbage, you're in trouble. So when we have exams, we check if you actually understood the concepts. So in fact, I've gone to the point where even for assignments which require programming in lab courses, I have exams which are pen and paper exams. So that no, you cannot use technology. Have you understood the concepts? That's what the exam.
Beautiful. I'm part of a group that works with school children, and in helping them understand what potential careers they might want to look at and how they go about it.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a bit on entrepreneurship. There was another person who came in and was talking about technology in specific about AI and how it's going to be disrupting the workforce and what the children need to be aware of. And that person made a statement. He said, "A fool with a tool is still a fool." Right?
True.
And I thought about it, and I actually quipped. I said, you know what? Sometimes a fool with a tool can be a dangerous fool. So and with AI being the kind of thing, right? It could lead to certain disasters if it's not curbed or if it's not used appropriately. And I think with the advent of the internal combustion engine, people were they did have all of these things that these machines are uncontrollable and a whole lot of things. I think every time there is something new that comes up, I
Yep.
think people are going to have all of this fear because I think as humans we are more away from pain, even if it meant that it could be an amazing future. We are so caught up with being in the now, and we are so used to our let's say, the comfort, that even if I could be potentially getting something that is even much, much better than what I have, there is a fear that I might have to expend some energy and relearn new things, kind of thing. In specific, have you noticed, coming back to AI, in terms of how have you seen this make a difference in industry, so to say?
Okay. I will follow the approach of your friend with Boyle's law and answer a different question and then talk to industry.
I love it.
So let me start with my industry, which is education. So I told you how students use AI to cheat on assignments, right? But a tool is a tool. You should not say I will not use a tool because tools are useful. They may be sharp and maybe cause problems if you use them carelessly, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't use them. And so guess what? Faculty are now using AI to create exams.
Wow.
I have used it myself just to try it out, and it works pretty well.
So,
Um,
Sudarshan, let me interrupt here. When we were talking about this podcast, I gave ChatGPT some inputs,
Yeah.
and I gave it some introduction about you. And I said, this is my intent for the podcast. And I actually had ChatGPT create an outline in terms of what kind of questions, what are the things that I need to be looking at,
Yep.
what is relevant. So I absolutely agree with you that if I can use it well, then it's probably useful. If I can't use it and I abuse it, then it's not useful. I
right.
completely agree.
Right. So this is the use of text generated by AI. And there's a lot of industrial use in the sense, not the blue collar industry, doesn't matter there, but I'm talking about the white collar industry. For example, um, you know, there are consultants who prepare presentations about something, right? Now they generate large reports based on a small set of points. So there's this cartoon about a guy who is sweating. Says, "I have to, generate this large report based on so many points. How will I do it?" And then he uses AI, and it generates a large report. And then the person who is going to read it says, "Such a large report, I don't have the time to read it. I'll ask the AI to summarize it," and it gives back the same 5 points. So this is the most useless use of AI. However, as you said, AI actually is very good at collecting together relevant points and putting it together. So just like you said, you used AI to think of what all points to put in here. AI can be very useful to make sure you're not forgotten something. And it's not just mere humans like us who need to deal with this. There are also gods. For example, one of the most brilliant mathematicians in the world today, there's a person called Terence Tao, who was a child prodigy and considered one of the most brilliant mathematicians today. I listened to a talk of his a few weeks back, where he said he was working on some problem and he was sort of stuck. So he said, just for kicks, he asked ChatGPT how to solve the problem. And ChatGPT gave 10 ways of addressing the problem. And he said, yeah, 5 of them he had already tried. They didn't work. But the sixth one, he said, yeah, that may make sense. And he tried it and it worked. Okay. So here is a guy who is the top of his field, amazingly brilliant person. And ChatGPT could give a suggestion which would help him, which ended up helping him to solve the problem. Of course, he might have come up with that idea soon enough. But the point is, it was still useful to him, even though it is really not intelligent and doesn't understand the problem per se, but it's able to put these things together.
No,
So,
I made very similar use of it, Sudarshan. I have a lot of notes that I have captured over the last 12 years. And I actually uploaded all notes on a certain topic into ChatGPT. And I said, please prepare a summary of the key themes that come through from all of this. And I also said, kindly pick out where there is a contradiction in, let's say, one post I've said something, in another place I've said, in a similar area I've said something that is to the contrary. I think it did an amazing job, and the speed at which it did it, and it didn't have to go beyond what I had given it as input. I also said, wherever there you find alignment and there is a key theme, put it together. Wherever there is a misalignment or an apparent contradiction, similar situation but completely different things being said, please present to me in a table form where what is said and what is the opposing view, and give me the context. And I was thinking about it. I had about 600 odd notes on one topic, on, let's say, relationships. And if I had gone through it myself, I would have had to label it. I would have had to go and understand it, keep it in memory, and then find out where there might be a contradiction.
yeah.
And it turned it out in like 30 seconds. 30 seconds, every single post of mine was referenced. And it said, these are the 6 key themes that come through. These are the places where there is a discordant node, where there is a misalignment or there is a contradiction. So I think, absolutely, I think if we can use it right, if we can use it with some sense, I think it can be an amazing, amazing asset.
It's almost magical how these systems are able to do these things. And the other interesting thing is that if you look at the underlying algorithms or the way the ML, the models are created, they have been evolving. But nobody expected that there would be such a quantum jump in what these systems are capable of doing. Which, of course, also goes back to say, have they actually figured out, how our brain works? We don't know. We don't know how our brain works. But clearly, they're doing things which only humans were capable of doing till now. So there must be some connection there somehow. So coming back to what these things are able to do, with looking at the big picture. A couple of months back, I was asked to give a talk on AI to faculty from various institutes. I had come up with the idea of using the recent Nobel Prizes as a motivation for why AI is important in all areas, not just for computer scientists or AI researchers. The people who won the Nobel Prize included chemists who had used AI to come up with some amazing advances on protein folding and other similar areas. And using those in turn to come up with potential drugs to cure various diseases. So the issue was, can we use this as a motivation for AI? And so I thought this would be nice to use the recent Nobel Prizes to motivate people across all areas to work on AI. So I used that as an example, and I was happy with having come up with that idea. And then I said, let me also, type to ChatGPT or Gemini. I need to give a talk to this category of people. Can you suggest what could be covered? And lo and behold, this thing comes back and says, you should use a hook, which is the recent Nobel Prizes. So that is a humbling moment, because AI had come up with excellent ideas Of course, why am I saying it's excellent? Because I came up with that idea. It has to be excellent. I'm kidding. But the point is that just based on statistical information which it has, it could come up with such suggestions. And if you think back on it more deeply, okay, that was one example. But these AI systems are actually beginning to sound wise. What is wisdom? You go ask an older person if you have some issue, and they're able to sort of step back from the problem, and look at it from a 10,000-foot level and give you some broad suggestions, which probably you had not thought of because you were too engrossed in the details. And these systems are able to do that. So they are already wise systems in this sense. So obviously, they're having a very major impact on many areas. So this was in terms of people who are giving talks. It has a huge impact on the consulting industry, where these systems may be able to give you suggestions on, if you're running a company and you're hired consultants to tell you what to do. AI can help the consultants speed up whatever they need to do and give you that report instantly. Right? Now, can AI replace a happiness coach? I don't think so. Probably not for a while, but who knows? Can AI replace professors? I hope not in the short term, but definitely it is complementing professors in helping students to learn things. So, in the academic world, whether it is school or college, there are lots of use cases for AI today, which will help students. Of course, there's a counterpoint to that. A student may say, "Why do I have to learn? AI already knows this thing. Let AI answer the question. Why are you troubling me to learn this? Let me not learn anything." But of course, if you do that, you're going to create a situation for your AI overlords to take over, and you have no clue what is going on. I hope we won't reach that situation. So it is still important to understand what is happening, and AI helping humans understand is a good thing. AI taking over is a bad thing. Now, coming to your original question about industry. So, what is AI's impact on industry? It turns out AI has been impacting industry for the last 30 years or more. If you look at any manufacturing industry today, already, even in India, robotics has taken over. Industrial robots have taken over. They have been programmed. Maybe initially you might say this is not AI, but if you look at what they are doing, they have vision in many cases so that they can go to the right position. And vision was an AI problem earlier. It's kind of now so common that people don't think of it as AI, but it was categorized very much as AI till even now it is an AI problem. So robots have replaced humans. The number of people in there's somebody I know who runs some companies near manufacturing industry near Mumbai, very successful. And they said that every year they're actually reducing the number of employees because they are increasing the automation, and the quality of their products is improving as a result. So why would they not do it? It's a competitive world, right? So they are hiring people to do other kinds of jobs, but in the factory, it's actually been coming down already due to robotics and AI. So the biggest fear in the world was that AI is going to replace blue collar workers doing this. And it has been doing that to some extent. But today the problem is slightly different. What white collar workers thought was perfectly safe jobs. The robot is not going to come for me. While generative AI has suddenly created a huge risk that it will come for you. So there is a big difference in the impact from 10, 20, 30 years back and what is happening today. But I would say to some extent it's just an impact on a different set of people. The impact may be similar, but it's on a different group of people. And maybe this group is well connected and more vocal and is able to talk about it much more than the previous group was.
Okay. See, you were talking about why should we learn? People say, why should we learn? I think if you look at evolution, right, the ability to share stories, where people did not have to, it did not have to be a lived experience.
Mhm.
Language made that possible.
Correct.
that I was able to share my learning with my children, and they didn't have to go through the trouble of having to live through that experience. So if somewhere I was thinking that if we lose our ability to communicate, to read, to write, and to share experience, I think what you said might happen, that the AI overlords could take over, right? Uh,
I think we are a little safe from that for now. That's more of very, very long term or maybe excessively fearful thinking. I was just using that as a joke.
no, but I again, when calculators came, when I was training as a chartered accountant, we had a rule that calculators could not be used for the examination, and therefore, when I wrote my intermediate examination, calculators were not allowed. And when I came to the final examination, calculators were allowed, but not scientific calculators. So you could have basic adding, subtraction, and all of that could be used. But beyond that, we weren't allowed to use anything. So I think somewhere, and then today, yes, I used to. An anecdote that I tell people is, as trading as chartered accountants, we were told that we had to total a lot of things, and because everything was handwritten, there were no computers in that time, and everything was paper, column sheets, and all of that, and totaling and making sure that everything added up was a big thing. And I remember that when I started my practice, I was not practice, but my apprenticeship I was apprentice with my father, and I made a totaling error. And what I was told was, in those days, we had the telephone directory. I was given the telephone directory and asked to total up the first 100 pages, right? And so I think somewhere, I think we have to unlearn a few skills, learn a new ones, and not place an over index on any particular skill. Is it relevant? Are we staying relevant? Are we staying useful? Are we learning? Are we coping? I think that's the question that we need to ask, and I think that question needs to be asked of AI as well.
Yeah. So you're right. AI is giving us amazing tools and we must use them. If you say, I will not
Yeah.
use the tools, the other guy is going to use it and blow you away. Right? So you must use the tools. You must figure out how to use the tools and in the most productive manner possible. Now, is this going to make us dumb? No, I don't think so. It's still necessary to understand first principles at some point in your life. Like in school, you still learn addition. That doesn't mean you have to keep doing that forever. Right? Very soon you graduate to calculators. But doing it forces your brain to understand it at a much deeper conceptual level than if you were just told what is the definition of addition and given one or two examples. That's not the same thing. So learning is going to be important, but you have to use the tools. Now, when you use those tools, you're going to be faster at doing certain things. And obviously, for the work which needed to be done today, if there were 10 people, maybe 4 of them are enough. What are the other 6 going to do? We'll come back to that, jobs. But coming to speeding up things, right? So, if you see how many programmers does the world need today, with Gen AI being able to do coding, you might think that the number of programmers will go down, and it might. I cannot say it won't. But if you go back 40 years, 50 years, when programming languages were invented, before that, people had to code in what was called assembler, which was much more tedious. And people said, oh, now there are these languages. It's going to replace these programmers who are going to be jobless. And how many programmers were there in the world at that time? Maybe 1,000. 1,000 people going jobless. But look at how many there are today. Tens of millions, right? So and interestingly, at that time, the tools, the compilers, which would take programming languages and convert them to machine code, were actually thought of as artificial intelligence for a brief period. So AI was of that era was going to take away jobs of programmers, but the net result today is exactly the opposite. So if today's AI speeds up programming and reduces the effort it takes to build something, does it mean programmers are going to be out of a job? Or is it going to mean that you can do things faster, so you can do more things which you couldn't have dreamt of doing before? And it's a bit of both. There are things which you could do today, which would have been quite difficult to get doing analytics. For example, you needed to be an expert, and even an expert makes mistakes. Now you can use these AI tools to say what you want, and they will generate queries which you can run on a database to get the statistics and information that you need.
I've been experiencing that, Sudarshan. For my coaching practice and all of that, I've been looking at various services about there that can help me keep track of my clients, the commitments they make, what I'm supposed to be working on. And recently, one of my young clients, they introduced me to something called v0.dev. And English language like prompt. I say, this is the kind of work that I do. I uploaded the formats that I use to keep track of my client engagements. And I was astounded that in like maybe 5 or 6 minutes, it gave me an app which had about 80% of what I would want to keep track of all my coaching engagements. So I think, like you rightly said, I think the number of programmers are going to be more, but they're not going to be programmers. They're probably going to be people like you and me. Sorry, not you, me. Me, who just knows the language, who's just going to go in and say, I'd like an app that does this, etc., etc. And to demonstrate this on my phone, I just gave I just typed in 4 lines of a prompt saying that I'd like to create an app which can help people understand equated monthly installments given a certain rate of interest, principal, tenor, and all of those things. And lo and behold, on my phone, within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, the app was ready, and it had the basic stuff. And it did all the nice things as well. Color coding for where the input should be, green for where the output was coming out, all of those things, and basic checks. So I think, yes. So I don't think that it's going to it is going to be a topic that people are going to be talking about, and I think whether it's AI or something else, as long as a person is relevant, they are learning and they can contribute, they will have something to do.
Right.
And I in my coaching lesson, these sessions that I have, I tell them, I'll say it nicely. The reason you're having this problem is because of you wanting to conserve energy, and that is common to all of human beings. All of things that have a shape and a form. Anything that has energy will try to conserve it and not expend it, right? And they'll say, okay, what's the not nice way of saying it? And say, you know what, you're being lazy. You're just not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So learn, unlearn, relearn, upskill, reskill. I think that's going to be the mantra. And the ones that can do that will continue to be relevant.
Absolutely right. You have to use the tools. And it's interesting that the people who use the tools are not necessarily the computer scientists. Among my colleagues, probably fewer people have done what you are saying than perhaps amongst the chartered accountants, for all I know. It can turn the tables very quickly, some of these things. As another example, I was telling you about taking text, a natural language query, and turning it into a form that a database can run. It's called the SQL query. And one of my colleagues and PhD students were working on this and had come up with some very interesting techniques to improve the performance of these systems. And just as the person was finishing his PhD, ChatGPT came out. And you could take the same thing to ChatGPT and it would give you almost as good results. After several years of research and PhD, what he had reached, ChatGPT, which was not trying to even solve specifically the text to SQL problem, but it's a general purpose system, was already very close. And today the newer systems are beating whatever you can do. So this was a revelation that a general purpose system, which is trained on all kinds of data, is able to beat specialized systems on specific problems because of its much broader knowledge. Of course, today there are still people trying to say, okay, now we have the system, can we improve upon it? Let's not try to build a competitor to the system, but let's build on the system to improve it. And that's where the research is going. So, one kind of job in this sense is gone because it's beaten by this time, but you can still improve on this. This is not perfect. So, there's a different kind of job which is there. So, in the same sense, I think AI will, in various sectors, create different types of jobs.
I was recently coming across something that said that medical diagnosis, I think it's becoming so much faster. Whole lot of decisioning is becoming faster. However, when it also gave out some interesting things that, especially in, let's say, in the BPO space, the call center space, or whatever space, the intelligence that was used to train the system was taken from the, let's say, the outliers and the ones that were exceptional. And therefore, it ended up making all of the people who were on the other side of the bell curve, it of their performance and made them all cumulatively better by about 30 or 40%. But it really didn't do much for the ones who were already doing exceptionally well. So I think we will, the ethical issues are things that we will have to look at, because I think already there is a lot of talk about IP and, whether it should be, whether it can take it and create it. It's a topic that's going to be a huge thing. I don't think we can talk about it today and get to any place useful. But I think the one takeaway that I'm taking from what you've said is that it is what it is. Learn to use it as a tool.
Yeah.
Take it, make it your friend. Don't look at it as an enemy. Don't look at it as something that is out to get you. Learn to be friends with it. And I think this can be true of almost our relationships with people as well. Let's not look at everybody as somebody out to get me. Can I work with them? Can I coexist, so to say? Would that be a right takeaway for me for what you're saying?
That's part of the takeaway. As an individual, you cannot control the world. You can only control yourself. So this is the part which you can do without controlling the world. At the same time, there are also risks to this technology. And one side is the job, so we'll come back to that. But there are other kinds of risks. For example, this whole AI is trained on material from the web. And where did the web material come from? It didn't magically appear. A lot of people have put a lot of effort into creating it. And they make money by putting out websites. And when you go to the website, there are some ads shown and you make some money from that. So that's one of the ways they make money. Similarly, on YouTube, people who are successful can make money from ads and other means. The risk with AI is that, first of all, when people query these systems, the system gives you the answer. You don't even go to the original source anymore. So the original source is not going to make money. And it's going to nobody is going to create original content. That's a risk. And then AI will not have anything new, original to learn from, and it's going to get stuck. Okay? This is not an immediate risk, but in the long term, it is obviously a risk. So in fact, one of the things that there's a company called Cloudflare, which is said is that they're a big proxy, web protection company. So what they have said is, if a content creator tells us that who's using our system for distributing the content, tells us that to block AI, we will infer which are the AI engines coming and crawling you, we will block them. So the AI engines will not have access to content unless they agree to pay you. Of course, they will take a cut, maybe. I don't know what their business, they have an existing business model. They may not take a cut on this. But the idea is that people are still motivated to create content, even though the end user is not even going to come to them. There are a lot of challenges, not easy. This sounds easier said than done. But that is a risk which can only be solved collectively. You as an individual cannot do anything about it. And the big players will do their best not to do anything for the moment, because for now the content is there. Yeah, it's a problem 10 years from now, but 10 years from now, 90% of those companies will be dead. So why are they worried about 10 years? They're worried about 10 days maybe from now, or 10 weeks. Somebody has to also worry about this kind of thing into the future, about the impact of AI success on AI itself. Then there is the other sort of thing, the impact of AI on humans in two ways. One is jobs, and the second is, I told you about recommender systems. It's well known that these recommender systems create bubbles. You get into a bubble where you are only fed one type of information, and then you have created little bubbles in the world where that's the only information you get, and you think that everybody outside your bubble is an idiot, is a crook, and hates you. Okay, so what we're creating is virtual tribes, the new kind of tribalism now, and you're seeing the impact of that today in the world. Whichever country it is, there's increasing tribalism of this form. We had a long period when we had the common media, newspapers, television, and so on, which was normative. We had schools where everybody went to the same type of school, which brought some uniformity, which was good in many ways. But now you have these systems which can flip the whole thing around and create new problems. And Gen AI is creating its new set of problems, deep fakes, which we discussed a bit earlier, and they're very easy to create today, increasingly easy to create. They were already possible a year or two back, but you had to have deeper knowledge and they were making mistakes. Today, it's much easier to get very realistic videos, images, whatever. So there's now a crisis of what to believe. Do you believe this picture or not? It may be real, you don't believe it. It may be fake and you believe it. You don't know. So there are a lot of interesting challenges here, which can have huge impacts on how the world moves forward. What does it do? Who does it elect? What kind of problems will this create? What kind of riots will be there? What kind of wars will be created by the use of this technology? We don't know. We are in for the ride.
You know,
And that's
we've
a lot
had
of-
we've had situations where we've had people, governments and authorities banning use of WhatsApp and for so that it doesn't spread anything that is even text messages. But now with video and deepfakes happening, I think it will be that much more difficult to come down. Which actually brings me to a question that I have. What kind of controls do you think we need to have? Um, you know, the upside of it is like we see in these movies that there is a artificial super intelligence, so to say, uh, and that it could be malignant, it could be benign. It could say that human beings are the scourge of the earth, and therefore they don't deserve to be around. Or they could be benign, and they could actually come in the way of making sure that we do what is right, what is appropriate for us. But in right now, that is far fetched. It could be imagination for now. Right now, what do you think are, let's say, the kind of controls that we need to have in this domain? Because, like you pointed out, yeah, if it is abused, then it is not very useful. If it is used, then it is useful. So, what kind of control should we have?
So, two answers to that question. First of all, this having a purpose implies that they are sentient beings, that they have a purpose in life, they understand it, and they work towards that purpose. We are nowhere near that. Today's systems do what they are told, in the sense that what they are trained, rather. You ask them questions, they will give you results back. You ask them to generate an image or a video, they will generate it. But do they have a purpose in life? Is their purpose to take over the world? No, they don't care. That's not what they're designed to do, and they're not capable of it. You cannot today create a version which actually goes out and tries to take over the world. It's not even a meaningful thing with today's technology. All it can do is generate text and images and videos, is one part of it. But then, can it do physical actions in the world? And that is the next generation of AI, which the NVIDIA's CEO has been talking about, which is robotics. So you create robots and you train them to do things. And there have been tremendous developments in this area in the last few years. You would have seen all these images of the Boston dynamics of dogs and so on, and other humanoids doing things. They've been doing it for a while, but they were kind of one horse show, one pony show, as they call it. They could do these stunts, but nothing more. But those techniques which were used to train them have been undergoing a lot of improvements. Basic technique is the same, something called reinforcement learning, where you get them to do things and they may make mistakes, but they learn from the mistakes and learn to improve. That's how a lot of the game playing AI started beating humans at Go and some other things, and chess also today. That's a part of the reinforcement learning is part of the AI used in games. They also learned how to play Tetris and other screen-based, image-based games, which was quite an amazing thing about 10 years back. DeepMind did it, and then Google bought them out. So that's one kind of thing where they can control the external world. But now when you have robots, again, at this point, they don't have sentience. But as we build these robots, they'll be able to do more and more tasks for us. And they could become part of our lives. There's a way to go. Industrial robots are still considered very dangerous. You don't want a human being in a radius where they can come and do something to you. You have to stay away from them. But as they get more intelligent, things will change. So there is a potential for robots to harm humans in those sorts of situations. So we have a way to go. Self-driving cars were thought of as impossible 20, 30 years back, and today they exist in controlled environments. They have existed in these controlled environments for 10 years now, with very little progress of moving out of those controlled environments. They've been improving steadily, but nobody thinks you can have a self-driving car in India. Forget it. It's just too complex and chaotic. There's no way they are able to do it today. How long will it take? We don't know. How intelligent will they have to be to recognize that an Indian driver actually looks at the face of the driver coming on the other side, looks at their eyes and sees whether they're seeing you. And if they are, then you can do certain things which you can't do if they're not seeing you. Right? Can they come to that level? Can they play the game of chicken, which we played every day in and out when we are driving on the Indian roads? We'll see. But there are tremendous advances, and who knows what are all the impact that will have on the physical world compared to what Gen AI is today doing in the virtual world. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
What excites you the most about AI today, Sudarshan?
So one of the things is it gives superpowers. I had a friend who, when his daughter was smaller, had told her some stories and he decided to write it down. And recently he decided maybe it'll be cool to use AI to generate illustrations for this. And he created a book. He's not an artist by any means. He just gave prompts to one of these AI systems and generated a beautiful illustrated book of the story which he had. And he actually took photos of his daughter and probably maybe his mother and father or whatever. And the cartoons in the book were generated using these images. So the cartoon actually looks like his daughter. You can make out the resemblance. It's a cartoon, but there is a resemblance. And they're beautiful, lovely illustrations, colorful things which a kid would love to see. There is a tiger in there, and there are clotheslines. There are people sitting down on the ground and eating as we do in India. All of these are generated by AI. This is mind-boggling to me. And just a year back, if you tried to generate the same image with prompts, each time you generated it, things would completely change. You don't want that. You want the girl to look exactly the same across all those illustrations. You want the grandparents to look the same. You want the tiger to look the same. And that is there today. In the last 1 year, this has happened, maybe less than a year. So now there's a superpower of creating illustrated things, which people who have no clue how to do create a drawing even can do today. So yes, on the one hand, what about all those illustrators who are doing this for a living? It's got to be harder for them. But there's a new category of people who now have these superpowers to create stories. And I think this could be very interesting. There'll be a lot more stories. There's also a risk that this can create what is called AI slop. You generate garbage and put it out there in the hope that somebody picks it up and, on YouTube, there's a lot of this AI slop today. Increasingly, you can see this. On your suggestions, you'll see things that are clearly nonsense images created by AI. As they become better at generating the images, you may not know. And there is now an AI band, you might have heard about it. There's a band which is completely AI. The music is completely AI, and it has 500,000 followers on Spotify. They have cover images of the band, which anyone who knows can say, look, this cover image is AI. These people are not real. And they didn't try to hide that. They put it out there. They didn't say whether it's AI or human. And it became very popular. And if you listen to the music, it's not bad. It's like kind of not very innovative music because these generative systems were based on what they have seen. But there is some randomness to what these systems do. So it's not going to regurgitate exactly what you gave it. It's going to twist things. And maybe that's what human creativity is all about also. We are not reproducing exactly what we gave in, but we are adding some twist to it. And that's what these systems are already doing. So you could say they are creative to some extent. And there are knobs to control this also. So you have this band which is completely AI generated. People were speculating, is it AI or is it not? They were trying to prove. Eventually, whoever created it put up on the page saying, yes, it is AI generated. So it has come to music. Right? So where do we go from here? Yeah, anything is possible. But in the real world, you might still go to concerts where you have real humans playing music because you want to hear that. You can get a AI band, or you can get your popular artists doing it. But how many popular artists are there? A small number. What about the other millions of people who are capable of generating music? Well, maybe we will continue to consume that live in person, and so that is not going to go away. So I think there will be a scope for many of these things in the creative space. So I talked about music, but similarly, all kinds of design, interior design, architecture, many things could benefit from AI, could also get impacted by AI. So both sides are possible. So I think I'm excited about the possibilities. There are also obviously concerns about how it can backfire, spectacularly. So I'm not saying it'll all be hunky-dory. But at the same time, I think there are tremendous possibilities, which, technology is there. It's not going to go back into the bottle. You may not use it, somebody else is going to use it. And so that's a reality. So you better find out how to use it, and you better find out what problems it can create, and you better find out how to solve those problems. So I think that's where we are headed. It's going to be interesting.
What you said was so interesting. Like, about 10 years ago, the kinds of jobs that exist today, they weren't even thought of. They weren't even imagined.
Yes.
20 years ago, people, if you said UI, UX designer, this, that, none of them would have understood anything.
Right.
So I think with each of these things, there is an opportunity and there is a threat as well.
Yes.
And it is, like you rightly said, making a considered choice, looking at what it is, how can I make use of it, how can I be relevant, I think is going to be still a human thing that it needs to look at. Day before yesterday, I had a session with a client and I had given them an exercise to do. Very simple exercise. This is what I call an identity exercise. That, if it's something that matters to me, even if I don't know who I am right now, can I come up with something about who I would like to be? When I say who, it's not about what I do or anything. What are the adjectives that I and people around me will use to describe me? So I tell them, I come up with a list of adjectives that are useful. And if that adjective were to be true of you, how would you behave? So expand a little. If you said kind is one of the adjectives that you chose, write down how you would behave that put together will add up to the adjective of kind. so on and so forth. And then get into with the quality of being kind, what will you do? So who I am defines how I do something, and that how informs and comes through in whatever I do. That's the exercise that I given them. And they had come up with a few adjectives on their own, and then they started using ChatGPT to tell them how they should behave. And it was it was interesting when I went over that exercise with them, and I said, and then the person, they were very, very open, and they said I had to take ChatGPT's help. And I said, I can make out. When I look at the document, I know that you've taken ChatGPT's help because I've been using ChatGPT extensively, and I'm able to see the patterns that ChatGPT is putting it out, right? That it won't, it will always have something, and it will say this is not what it is. So this is it, and this is not what it is. So that's a standard pattern that I saw. So I think yes, can we make use of it? I think we should definitely make use of it. And I don't know. I think it's called the Feynman technique, right? Where when I prove one aspect, one thesis right, I need to also equally with absolute control be able to speak for the exact opposite as well. I'm not too sure whether AI is there, will do it right now, or will it get there. Right? So I think yes. So dovetailing from that statement that you made, make choices, be aware, make sure that you choose something that was right for you. And this is a question that I think most people who are employable will probably like to hear an answer from you on. What are the skills that we need to have in an AI age? What are the skills that I definitely need to have to be relevant and useful in an AI age, according to you?
Yeah. So the number one skill which differentiates humans from all other animals, most other animals, not all, is the use of tools, right? So we have, over the course of our existence, used tools starting from very simple tools to amazing tools which we used to build everything you see around us. Mind-boggling what we have achieved. AI is just one more tool in this. If you look at the long history, AI is one more tool. It's not maybe it is more powerful than many of the tools we have seen, but if you compare AI's effect with, let's say, electricity, it's amazing what all AI couldn't exist without electricity, right? So electricity covers everything, including AI. So the bottom line is that tools are there. There are amazing new tools. We need to figure out how to use the tools. There's the other part about building the tools. Now, there's a lot of lament in India that we have fallen behind in building the tools. We do build some of those, but the scale at which AI has evolved and the scale of these tools is truly, incomprehensible compared to where we were not too long back in terms of just the compute power needed to create these models. Of course, people are working to optimize them, and there are people in India working on building these tools, optimizing these tools, and that is required. That is the core of the AI thing. But where the money is going to be made is in using these tools to build other things which people will use. And these applications of AI, people are not yet sure what all will be there. There's a lot of talk of agents and so on. It's all early days at this point. Will these things be reliable enough to do the right thing, or will your agent, mess up things and lose money or worse for you? So these are things to be answered. But I think in the long term, the applications of AI, like any other technology, is where the maximum impact will be. And so we should look at these tools and find out how to use them and do interesting stuff with them. And that is where you will prosper. Of course, there's a lot of competition out there, and the tools are changing so fast that if you figured out how to optimally use ChatGPT last month, next month it may be completely different. All the complex stuff you did may be completely useless And a simple query might be just as good as all the hoops you jump through to improve it. Right? So it's not that your skill is going to, you should figure out which skills are going to die in 2 months or 1 year versus which skills will last longer.
Yeah, I think it's also useful that we need to be able to be nimble
Yes.
and not shy away from the discomfort that comes with learning something new.
Absolutely right.
And I think that is going to be something that, like they say, it is not the survival of the fittest, but it's the survival of the most adaptable to change.
Absolutely.
And fittest means actually those that are adaptable, those that take on these challenges. And obviously we are all living proof that we come from the gene pool that was able to actually uh, weather the odds, so to say. Otherwise, the gene pool wouldn't have been passed on. So, yeah. What is your prediction for AI, let's say, in 5 years' time, 2030?
That's a hard question.
Round number.
If you had asked people 5 years back where AI would be today, everybody would have got it wrong. So it's very difficult to make predictions, especially about the future, as somebody said. I can predict what AI was like 5 years back, but 5 years from now is hard. So I think there will definitely be a lot more applications of AI in everything which we do. It will seep into everything. Every tool which we use today online already has AI embedded, and it's going to be more of it, which will speed up many things which we could do. If I want to make a presentation on something, today I can use ChatGPT to generate the text. Already there are tools which can help me generate images, figures for this. I have tried doing that, and a few months back they were very rotten. They generated ridiculous images. But that technology is also evolving fast. And like the illustrations of the book I told you about, uh, they've got very good, and images, charts, and things like that, figures also will come about. So I think if we use the tools right, we can speed up things which we do and address problems which, or create things, artifacts which will be used for whether it's education or communication or whatever it is, which wouldn't have been possible earlier. So I think that is something which really excites me, that this is possible with AI and it's going to happen. And so that was part of where we will be 5 years from now, using AI to do all kinds of things which we didn't imagine we could do in a economical fashion today. And that will change. And that could have far-reaching impacts. Of course, the flip side of AI is that it might also put a lot of people out of work. And it's a real risk. It's not a joke. So yeah, how to deal with that is another big challenge. What will we do? And to some extent, that's already happened with manufacturing. Jobs have come down sharply. So where are people getting employed? It's been in the services sector. India has benefited because we have huge amount of software services. But if some of the remote services become easier to do with AI, then what are the other services? Tourism is a big industry. Um, you know, music, live art, whatever it is. The human contact, human to human contact, might increase as a way of creating jobs which would be needed for the future. If AI is going to take over today's jobs, we have to create maybe not new jobs, but more of certain sorts of jobs which people will appreciate the in-person touch over there. So let's see how this goes.
See, whenever we ask people what is required for life, they say food, clothing, and shelter. I give them a different answer. I say you need air, water, and food. Clothing and shelter are optional because without air, I'm going to die within 2 or 3 minutes. Without water, I'll die in probably 7 days. Without food, I'll probably die in 30 days. So air, water, and food. And then nice to haves would be clothing and shelter, right? So I think all of it comes down to life. So if I were to look at it, so if I were to ask your thoughts on how it will benefit or how it can make better availability of food, of healthcare, of shelter, because we are in need of shelter, we are in need of all of those things. So how do you see this playing out in, let's say, two areas? One is food and the other is in healthcare. And I said, healthcare, I would like to reiterate that it's not the treatment that we are looking at today, but if we can make it preventive, that we can actually look ahead and say that we can make course correction, proactive. Right? How do you see that playing out in healthcare and in food? How can we make more food available that is not processed, so to say? So that would it can be as close to natural and yet nutritious, and not lead to the kind of lifestyle issues that we have that come from, let's say, processed food. How do you see that playing out? Because I think this is something that's of interest to me. I don't know how many people are interested in this. I'm certainly interested in this, and I'd like to know.
Yeah. So keeping the theme of AI in mind, already, as I told you, the Nobel Prize for Chemistry this year, part of it went to researcher, professor who has used AI to create molecules. The other part of it went to people who are computer scientists. Chemistry prize went to computer scientists who figured out how to use AI to predict the structure of proteins, which is a very, very important thing to be able to understand biological systems. And now AI is being used to create molecules which can be used to treat diseases. So you've mentioned lifestyle, but let's start with diseases. There's going to be a tremendous amount of work going forward, which AI is going to speed up creation of um, drugs to solve things. Now, creating a drug which has an impact, an effect, is something which is going to be speeded up. Today, the bigger problem is what about the side effects? Now, if you can use AI to predict the side effects and avoid even dealing with or remove from consideration quickly drugs which could have side effects, we are not there yet. It's a very long distance away. But that is what I think will be the topic of research in the medicine sector for a long time. Having said that, already there are drugs which address lifestyle issues. The weight loss drugs which people are using today is a solution. I'm not saying it's the right solution. I would much rather never have those drugs and people have a better lifestyle. But it's obviously being used to work around lifestyle choices. It's better to avoid it, but if you can't, well, drugs are there. And most people are using, drugs to deal with this kind of thing. I hope I don't have to use drugs of these sorts, but you never know.
Yeah. What you're saying is that prevention is definitely better than cure, but then right now we need to cure and then we'll focus on the prevention.
It's both. You have to do both. Yeah. You can't just do one or the other. And for food, again, if you have a lot more time on hand, what will you do? Maybe you will spend it cooking food or going to restaurants and spending money on food which is cooked there rather than on a song which AI generated, right? So maybe there will be things balancing out in the long term.
Interesting. I know that you have a stop, and we've had some technical issues that derail that process. So I want to take a rain check, that I want to come back to you on this topic, because I think we've just scratched the surface of the surface. I don't think we've actually made the amount of depth that this requires.
We can have weeks of talks on this.
Yeah. So I think, I'm going to take a rain check, and I want to definitely come back with, let's say, maybe one specific area where AI and technology in general, and AI as the talking point can be used. Maybe I'm just thinking about a series that focuses on technology and AI in terms of making people healthier, right?
Yeah, maybe for that one, you could use ChatGPT instead of Sudarshan.
Ha, nah,
It may do a better job. You never know.
nah, nah. I did come across that. I think notebook or whatever it is that you give it a text document and it creates a podcast. Right. I've seen that. It is very lifelike and all of that. But I'd still like to do this. I still like to believe, rather than I know that for a while longer, we're still going to be relevant. And so I'm going to take that playing check.
Sure.
So what would be your, on today's, I know that we wanted to do a lot more technology when it is helpful. Sometimes we are not prepared to handle the challenges that it throws us. So what would be your, if I had to ask you to give me some thoughts on what people should be looking at, summarizing what your thoughts on AI, on technology in general, right? What can we look forward to? I am focused also on looking at what it means for India, definitely for the world. I think it needs to benefit the world, cannot be just narrowly looked at from only one nation. So, what would your thoughts be for people to look forward to? What would you ask them to be aware of that they need to be careful about?
Yeah. So I said, look forward to, I think, with the current generative AI, I think we can look forward to a lot of creative uses of it to create content which we might all enjoy or benefit from. Um, there's a lot more content, but there's a risk in this sort of situation. When my elder son was small, we had some really lovely software for kids to learn lots of things, maths, arithmetic, whatever, even English, grammar, whatever. A beautiful piece of software which teams of people had got together to create, and they sold in large numbers, and they were excellent. Now, by the time my younger son was born, about 7 years later, it turned out that these old pieces of software, I had the CDs, but they wouldn't run anymore because the new version of Windows wouldn't run this old version of the software. And I said, okay, let me buy these titles again. I'll pay for it. They're very nice titles. Turned out all the companies were gone. And what you got instead were, very low quality things which have been created by one or two people, not a large team of obviously experts in learning, in music, the visuals. Those wonderful things were gone. So we actually slid backwards. Technology was moving forward, the content is slid backwards. So it has already happened once. And there is a big risk that this could happen to content. This is what is called AI slop, where people generate garbage content and it crowds good content out. And that's also a real risk. I hope that our filters, meaning the filters which YouTube and friends use, or whatever else humans use when the newspapers and so on, to be able to get us good, interesting content which we will benefit from, and avoid the slop. So, from the content viewpoint, I think this is something very interesting, and there's a risk, but I hope we will overcome it. And other use of AI, of course, there are tremendous impact across all other aspects of our life beyond content. And let us see how this works out. It's happening all around us. We see drones being used for good. We see drones used for wedding photography. We see drones used for wildlife photography. We also see drones used for bombarding the enemy, and then technology to beat those drones and so on. So yeah, everything is double-edged. AI is going to seep into so many different aspects of our lives. Let's see where it goes.
Thank you, Sudarshan. And, I really, really appreciate your taking the time. And, it's been, you've been on standby for almost 3+ hours. So, and we've been able to record something. Thank you very, very much.
Pleasure talking.
And I look forward to another session, probably focused on one of the aspects and then taking it. I know I will not take ChatGPT. I will only win Sudarshan. And however long it takes, we will get back together and probably have another chat. If that's okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, Sudarshan. Thank you very, very
Welcome.
much.
Pleasure talking with you. Bye.
Bye.